Looked like Dystopia. San Francisco tech executive describes trip to downtown bar that left her scared, where hundreds of homeless people and drug addicts were folded over outside shuttered businesses. I did a podcast about xylazine, and it got demonetized. The powers that be said, nope, there are no advertisers suitable for this topic. Don't like it. Don't like you talking about the drug addicted. But some of the comments were, hey, the xylazine thing, I've seen that on videos here on YouTube about people in Philadelphia. Is that what you're talking about? And yeah, that is what I'm talking about. The doubled over, folded over comment here leads me to believe that there's some of that probably going on in San Fran right now. I have no reason to believe that other than some video I've seen, but I've never seen the doubled over. I've seen it once in downtown Seattle. That was last summer, but I haven't seen the doubled over. Literally where your head, you're standing up, but your head is in between your knees, doubled over like that. I mean, it's just, subhuman. I don't know. It's pretty crazy. But this is what we're getting into. So we've got a San Francisco tech executive has branded the downtown area dystopian. That's a great term. That's a great term. After she walked past hundreds of homeless people, Michelle Tandler, 37, shared a picture from her Saturday night trip to a bar in the wilting Democrat-run city. Gotta remember, this is Daily Wire. So they're going to have a little, this is not Daily Wire, Daily Mail. Although, they'd probably use the same language, right? Wilting Democratic-run city. She posted the image of a distressing scene that featured a group of homeless men surrounded by trash and graffiti. It comes to cities such as San Francisco, Portland, and Philadelphia. They left out Seattle. I'm feeling left out here. They're being outed for their homelessness and drug crisis. So now you've literally got executives. Because it used to be nobody in these towns, nobody in these cities would say anything, right? They're just like, well, we're just kind of waiting for something to happen positively here. And we're told that, the harm reduction is going to work. We're told that housing first is going to work. Meanwhile, what did I see? One of the executives in LA is making $430,000 a year as homelessness just explodes. How's that work? I mean, we heard Joe Rogan talk about, the homeless industrial complex. And nothing's going to change because these people are making big money. 430 grand? That's a chunk of change. I mean, maybe they're running a big company, but could you imagine in the real private sector? Let's see. Let me look at your metrics here. Making $430,000 a year. You didn't do your job. The situation you were tasked with taking care of got way worse. It went in the wrong direction. Your statistics have gone way down. Let me give you a raise. Let's give you a raise. Let's see. 430 grand. It might have been 420. I don't know. It was over 400. That's what caught my eye. I'm like, all right. And this is in LA. I don't remember seeing any stories about things getting remarkably better there. I don't. Maybe I missed them. Maybe if I did miss them and there's a huge turnaround in LA, put them on my Discord channel, Reasonable Plus. So we've got a video up on the YouTube channel, kind of how to do the whole Discord thing, making it easier. We've had a bunch of people join. You can go in there. You can post, somebody posted a Rambo video in the fun section. I like that stuff because we talk about hardcore stuff all day long. Sometimes you need a little bit of, you need some entertainment. And that's what I try and do here. But the topics, yeah, they're tough. These are tough. This is tough. You got an executive who's like, what is going on in San Francisco? Pictures of downtown San Francisco shared by Michelle Tandler on Sunday morning. She said because of the scene of drug-addled homeless people around her, she felt unsafe. This is the conversation I've been having with one of my kids who was actually on the podcast yesterday. And he's like, Dad, it's mostly safe. I'm like, okay, yeah, but you're in your late 20s. You're still kind of fearless. The rest of us are like, nah, I'm not going out after like 9 p.m. I'm not going out like this young lady is here. By young lady, 37. That's pretty young, right? That's pretty young. So here's her tweet. This is the start of her tweet. Last night, I went to a bar in downtown San Francisco. It looked like a dystopia. I saw hundreds of people folded over, likely high in fentanyl. All right, so she knows her stuff. She's not coming she's not coming from Ohio going, what is this we are looking at, right? Not coming from somewhere where they just don't have this stuff. Although I do enjoy seeing those videos. There was one taken a while ago of a family that had just come here from like Kansas, and they were in Seattle, and they were like, we just saw people living in a tent on the sidewalk. Can they do that? Is that legal? If you did that in our town back in Kansas or wherever it was, you'd be arrested. And they were just like shocked. They were floored. Welcome to Seattle. Welcome to Philadelphia. Welcome to San Francisco. So she saw hundreds of people folded over, likely high in fentanyl, or sitting on the sidewalk smoking. Okay. Almost every person looked homeless. Probably because they are, and she knows that, but she can't confirm. So she's going to see, yeah, they look homeless. I felt scared to park and walk 2 blocks. Well, that's because you probably should be. You should probably have an armed escort, right? I mean, that's the conversation I have with my kid. And he's like, Dad, but just don't go out after midnight. And all I can think of is after midnight. God, I'm in bed long ago. Last night, I went to a bar in downtown San Francisco. It looked like a dystopia. Tandler claims that San Francisco is at a breaking point as it pertains to ongoing and rampant homelessness problem, as well as drug use in the streets and lax criminal prosecution policies fostered by progressive politicians and city officials. How is this going to end up? What is the course of this going to look like? Because we're on the front end of everybody the elephant is in the room, right? Elephant's in the room. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Treatment is housing. Everybody wants to focus on, well, if they just had a home. And that to me is that's some nonsense by people who don't really get it. Businesses are shutting down and leaving, she wrote. The homeless, rightfully so or not, have taken over downtown San Francisco. The status quo is unsustainable, she declared. Last week, Collier Gwynn, the man who was filmed spraying down a homeless woman who refused to move away from his gallery front, was arrested. We talked about that. Got the podcast here of that on here on this channel. We got a second podcast where he was arrested. The first one was this video came up and everybody in San Francisco was just, they're all, I can't believe that happened. That's so horrific. Now, what's horrific is what this tech executive is describing that's being reported on here. The city's district attorney said he would face charges, talking about the gallery owner. He would face charges for the incident that occurred on January 9th in front of the Foster Gwynn Gallery. The incident prompted an initial public outcry, but some San Francisco residents, Tandler among them, took a more nuanced view of the unfortunate interaction. And that's kind of what I said is, hey, you're missing the whole context of what this guy as a business owner has been dealing with that the city of San Francisco has not been dealing with, that has just basically abandoned their tax-paying residents, abandoned their tax-paying businesses to the point where, a group of businesses in the Castro have said, yeah, we don't really want to pay taxes anymore. You guys aren't doing anything for us. Why should we pay taxes? And I totally agree. But again, not paying your taxes, taking a hose to a homeless woman and getting videotaped. Optics on those are not good, right? I mean, we just know. All right, you get caught for one of those deals, it's not going to look good. The incident, okay, so we got the initial public outcry. Recently, a man in San Francisco was arrested for spraying a homeless woman with water, she wrote. She had been camping in front of his shop for weeks, screaming, defecating, scattering trash. He lost his patience and engaged in a cruel act. This is what she is tweeting out as kind of context for, all right, here's what he was dealing with. Here is what the gallery owner was working with. And he lost his cool and he squirted her. It's not like he did some crazy physical violence thing toward her. He didn't. So, a lot of you guys have said, the only thing that was wrong with that is he didn't use soap. It's again, harsh. I get it. But so does the business owner. He's like, hey, my sidewalk is a mess. This woman is making a mess. out of public space that people should be able to use to get to businesses up and down this street. And that's just not happening. So guy lost his cool and sprayed her down and said, move on, move. Literally just said that. He'd been allowing her to camp under his awning for weeks, but she clearly needed more, wrote Tandler. Where was San Francisco government? California, the federal government? They're nowhere on any of this. Who owns the sidewalk? Should she be allowed to camp and block passage onto his store? Good questions. No. And these people, the woman that we saw in that video, we know she's homeless, whether she's mentally ill or addicted to drugs, whatever her issue is, she shouldn't be living on the sidewalk. That is lack of compassion right there. Was he defending his property? Is that allowed? She continued. Well, apparently not, because he got arrested. I think you can defend your territory, but man, you can't go hands on. So effectively, can you defend your territory? Yeah, you need to be careful, right? Need to be careful. Somebody's always watching. Some jackass has a cell phone. He's going to put that on TikTok and say, look at this. Crimes against humanity. They hosed her down. Tandler added that she, along with many others, in search of a humanitarian option, but does not believe the city's homeless population should be given a free pass to camp on the streets, effectively taking over parts of the city. And we've got an image of the guy just kind of so nonchalantly hosing this woman down. He was literally just kind of, like this was an everyday occurrence. That's kind of how it felt, right? Because this woman is probably out there, or was out there just every single day. And, that's not where people should be living. That's not where people should be doing. And government should take care of that. So we got some photos here of just kind of, exactly what's going on. Rows of homeless tents are seen near the City Hall of San Francisco outside residential properties and small business premises earlier this year. Homeless tents in the Tenderloin area of San Francisco, where a rampant homeless population have taken over many blocks. This is kind of the scene that we're looking at right here. This is kind of, with the exception of these are bigger buildings in the downtown core. This is what areas of Seattle look like. This is what this reminds me, the size of the tents here that we're looking at, that reminds me of Skid Row. Just all the footage that we've seen of Skid Row, where you've got, those are some jumbo family-sized tents, right? You got 8 to 12 people tents in there, 3 or 4 vestibules. And why wouldn't they do that? You get 300 square feet in one of those bad boys. If somebody's going to allow you to live on the sidewalk and do that, pay any taxes, they come by and throw you some clean needles every now and then and throw some food at you, and you can go get free clothes. And, this is how we got where we are. Homeless men are seen on a sidewalk near San Francisco City Hall, where legislators drew up increasingly relaxed policies that fail to protect any part of the city's vulnerable population. So we've got this deal where we view this as compassion by just letting them do whatever they want to do. Somehow this is compassionate. Doesn't seem compassionate to me at all. It seems like just a complete lack of responsibility. But this is just kind of how it goes in these West Coast cities, right? Just got more images of, your standard just nonsense of people doing their own thing on the sidewalks. And by their own thing, I mean drugs. She wrote that she believes the city may be on the precipice of vigilantism. I've talked about that. People taking things into their own hands. That doesn't surprise me. If I scroll down here a little bit more, we'll get video footage here. Let's just watch this dude again. All right. There he is. He's just doing his work. Yeah, it's kind of brutal to watch, but it's also brutal to watch all these people just living the way they are with zero repercussions, and this just going on, right? She wrote that she believes the city is on the precipice of vigilantism. When home values fall, people will follow their natural urge to protect their families and net worth. This anarcho-tyranny needs to come to an end, she wrote. Anarcho-tyranny, that is an interesting couple of words there, right? Hyphenated word. She also hit out against the so-called harm reduction policies in the city that allow homelessness and others to publicly access syringes and shoot up at injection sites. That has been a hot topic. City-funded injection sites. Just shut one down in San Francisco. You had 23,000 people use it. You had like 18 people take a look at treatment. 18 out of 23,000. I think those are the numbers. It's supposed to be a place where, you get clean needles, and it's that harm reduction. All right, if they're going to do it anyway, let's make it safe. It's just making it worse. There's no way that this isn't just literally making it worse, because in towns where you don't have these kind of policies, you're not seeing this. This isn't a thing. It's not on the streets everywhere. It's not running rampant. So, this is one of those social experiments that we're watching unfold in real time. And it's kind of like, well, this just isn't really working out all that well, is it? So she goes on to say, all I see is harm, she wrote. Instead of harm reduction, we got just harm. Yeah. And it's harming these folks to the point where they are dying in record numbers. The number of homeless people in San Francisco was tallied in February of last year at almost 8,000, second highest figure of any year since 2005, according to the official government count, which takes place every 3 years. That's a little distracting for me to have that guy just continually hosing her down. It almost certainly ballooned since the last count. Business owners in some of San Francisco's neighborhoods have threatened to stop paying taxes if politicians don't start cleaning up streets of litter and stopping people from being just the animals that they are. I made up that last part because it wasn't on the screen. So we've got Mayor London Breed here beginning to take some of the blame for the homeless crisis engulfing her city. She initially came on strong, and then, unless you take a hard stance on some of this stuff, unless you start putting people involuntarily into treatment, unless you start taking the mentally ill off the streets and involuntarily putting them into institutions, unless you start to really crack down on crime, expect much of the same, right? Expect much of the same. This picture here dates back to the summer of 2018. The city's government has long been accused of doing little to help solve the problem. So you've just got much of the same. And yet you've got these folks running the homelessness deals, salaries of $200,000, $400,000. I mean, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild that, somehow they're going to get a raise for basically not doing their job in a way that you should be rewarded for job performance, because homelessness has risen and gotten worse. And yet we're told, well, we need to spend more money. How many billions of dollars do we need to throw at this before we go, you know what, maybe, I don't know, maybe this approach isn't working. Maybe we should do a $2 million study and find out, right? That's kind of what it feels like. It's like, what are we really doing here? In a letter to city officials from last summer, the Castro Merchants Association said some of the homeless people in the streets outside their stores have been harassing customers and needed help. They should be in a mental institution somewhere. They should be medicated somewhere. They need help. They need to get some counseling. They need whatever it is. They're not going to find it on the sidewalk in San Francisco. They're just not. So, but people know that, but they don't want to do anything about it. But because the cat's out of the bag. So what are you going to do? Well, we're going to watch it from afar and just kind of see how it works out. They need shelter and or services, and they need them immediately, the Merchants Association said. Our community is struggling to recover from lost business revenue, from burglaries and never-ending vandalism/graffiti, often committed by unhoused persons. That's one of those causal things, right? You've got these people, and I feel like it's the homeless folks that are creating the graffiti that we're seeing on such large scale in these cities. Seattle's got a real graffiti problem. It just looks so horrific. It just looks so third world, right? They want to try and convince me that that's art. No, it's street art. Every tag tells a story. No, it's vandalism. You just vandalized city property. You just vandalized private property. You just vandalized a stop sign, city property. That's vandalism. You should be in jail. I got carded the other day for buying spray paint at Home Depot. And I was like, what is this? Is this because they're huffing it? Or is this because of graffiti is such a problem? It was in Bellevue. I scanned my 1 can of white appliance paint because I'm sanding down and painting the wire shelving in the fridge in my boat, both of them. And I needed a couple of cans of spray paint. Got carded for spray paint. What's up with that? I mean, I kind of know that, that's a thing, but I guess I haven't bought spray paint in a while. But now you got to be over, is it 18? Is it 21? I mean, it used to be just like tobacco products and booze, but now I guess it's, stuff at home. You can't have that, sir. You're only 17. Yeah, I just want to paint something. Yeah, because kids are buying paint for, graffiti purposes, and then they're also huffing it. That's not good. Coat those lungs and shut them down. Major crimes in San Francisco are up 7.4% so far last year. So I take all these crime statistics and I figure, let's double that because so much of this stuff just doesn't get reported. That's my estimate. That's my, getting the little bump in there because I think all these stats are regularly underreported. Up 7.4% so far last year from the same period in 2021, with assault up 11% and robbery up 5%. The robbery? It's got to be way more than that. I was reading a independent study had been done on the homeless count, and I can't remember what city it was, but I think was it LA? Might have been LA or a neighborhood in LA. And they were walking through how the homeless count was inaccurate. And they were walking through what they did as an independent study to kind of verify and get more accurate numbers. Because when, in a lot of that on this stuff too, a lot of these crimes are no longer being reported. People have given up. Businesses have given up. Nah, I know I need to. And you literally hear stories about it. I know I should be reporting this, but it's a huge waste of my time because nothing's going to happen. And I got to deal with the broken glass. I got to deal with, getting a window company in here. I got to deal with, all that stuff. So, they're not necessarily calling the police because they know nothing's really going to happen, but they should. They should, unfortunately. So the stats all read out and then the political leaders can go, this is really way worse than we thought. Which it typically is, right? A recent poll found that a majority of San Franciscans believe that their city is going downhill, and a third plan to leave the city within 3 years. All right, that's the stat right there that I found really interesting. A third of them plan to leave the city within 3 years? Where are they going to go? A third of the population of San Francisco is talking about exit stage left. That's a lot of folks. If that happened, say a fraction of those folks left. Imagine what that does to the tax base. I mean, that's pretty wild. Now, we've been hearing that in these cities that people are going to leave. It's kind of like Miley Cyrus saying, if Trump gets elected, I'm moving to Canada. She's still here. I think Tommy Lee from Motley Crue said the same. That guy gets elected. I'm out of here. I'm moving to Canada. All right, Tommy Lee. See ya. Bye-bye. Miley. Bye-bye. But that didn't happen, right? They stay. They just say a bunch of stuff. They get their Twitter juice and then they just, no, I can't leave. I got to fight the good fight and stay here in the United States. And Orange Man bad. Some residents blame Mayor London Breed, whose earlier popularity for steering the city through the pandemic appears to have waned amid rising crime, the fentanyl epidemic, and other woes. How about Governor Cuomo and his brother? What happened to them? Because they were the dog and pony show that was on the news night after night after night during the whole COVID thing, weren't they? Yeah. And then they just crash and burn. I think Cuomo's brother, Chris Cuomo, he's on some news show and he's getting a fraction of the views that he was before. So, there is justice out there. And what Andrew Cuomo is doing, I don't know. Got a video here of, we'll play this. That's a good look. That's nice. Imagine having these businesses open up in the morning. Just got to, okay. Yeah. I mean, dude without his shirt on, just whacked out of his mind. There's a good look. I'd go there. I mean, it's mostly clean. It's mostly clean. You know what I mean? It's just like, how did we get here? What? Okay, the guy's cleaning his foot off, and I understand that fentanyl does some really rough stuff to your feet. Got some tents. Probably cost the city 10 grand a tent. I got a keyboard over there. Where'd we steal that from? Or is that our burgeoning music career? All right. I feel so sorry for people in wheelchairs trying to get around through this stuff. Okay. What are we pushing through the intersection here? What do we got going there? What's happening? Is that like one of those old school egg chairs? It is. Now we've just got some shenanigans on the sidewalk. Got somebody we dealing? Yeah. Don't know. Just stuff. That's the daily stuff you see. And everybody's just like, well, here's a person just completely crashed out on the sidewalk. Cops trying to help him. It's just so sad. So, are we supposed to help every single one of them? Well, if you don't, you let them die. Some of you might say, hey, that's the way this goes. And unfortunately, that is true. But these are somebody's kids. These are somebody's mom, somebody's dad. The whole thing just sucks. And it's sad, right? One specific harm reduction policy that failed was opening of the Tenderloin Center last year. That's the one that I was talking about that had like 23,000 people. Here's the stats actually right here. One specific harm reduction policy that failed was the opening of the Tenderloin, which was meant to help alleviate the city's drug and homelessness crisis. It cost taxpayers a whopping $22 million and was meant to be a safe place for addicts to get high without getting robbed and without fear of fatally overdosing. Because they were going to give them a bunch of, overdose drugs if they did overdose. How does this help anybody? It doesn't. I mean, it just barely keeps them alive because if they shoot up or if they snort or if they smoke, a block down the street and they don't get the help they need, they're dead. This is wild. Overall, less than 1% of visits ended in a completed linkage to behavioral health programs. That's what I was talking about. Less than 1%. I think it was like 18. Despite their efforts, 2022 saw upward of 500 people die from overdoses in San Francisco. In 2021, that figure was 641. I did a podcast this morning, or we released one. I'm on the premieres, typically Monday through Friday. You'll find me doing chats with all you guys who want to watch the video come out for the first time. And this morning, the topic was King County health officials are basically looking for additional storage space for dead bodies because there are so many dead bodies piling up from fentanyl overdoses. True story. Check out that podcast. I mean, that's wild, right? I mean, it's just, how do we get to this point? Officials had also hoped the site would offer a place to deal with the homeless crisis the city had faced in recent months and years. Mayor Breed originally allotted just $10 million for the project, but it quickly ballooned to more than double that estimate. In total, some 400 individuals were provided with assistance each day. We're still talking about the center, the shoot-up center. A large portion of those who took advantage of the site used it specifically for shelter or food, which they desperately need. And you know what? Treatment is housing. Stole that from a tweet from We Heart Seattle. They're the group that goes out and picks up garbage and helps homeless people out for free. They are donation based, and city officials have, at times said, "Don't pick up that garbage. That's not yours to pick up. It's their garbage. Leave it alone. You guys are bad." They pick up hundreds of thousands of dollars for free. Yeah, wild, huh?